Good. All right. My name is Ed Nardi, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the commission table and plans to be projected through the TV monitor. If you are presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it is time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of any commissioners attending virtually and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the August 30th meeting. Please note that the meeting is being recorded. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Gary
Kleiman.
Sarah Grumman.
Nick.
Nick Pappas.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so I think we'll get into the agenda this evening, and up first is really a new item for the commission this evening. It's a public comment 10-minute period. Anybody that would like to have a comment on the NRC's jurisdictional issues other than the hearings that we have before us this evening is free to have a public comment for 2 minutes per speaker. Please.
Where do I?
You could come up here or you could
Okay.
stay right there. Your choice.
I guess I'll move up. Thank you. Hi, I'm Priscilla Guiney. I live at 62 Wright Road, and I'm here to say hello to the NRC and to please open the dialogue to reconsider the removal of Warner Pond Dam. The reason why I ask this is that we view it as a really amazing cultural, ecological, and recreational asset to all of Concord. I think it's a hidden gem that a lot of people in town aren't really aware of how amazing it is in terms of the ability to have carbon-free paddling, the ability to have carbon-free access in terms of walking, biking, and West Concord continues to have high population density building within the area, very close to the pond. So we feel like it can meet the needs of nature as well as people. And people are drawn to ponds. People are already attracted heavily to White Pond, of which I'm a member, and we're shut out at times because the parking is full, it's too full of people. So we feel like this is a further access that has a lot of beauty. We worked as stewards this summer as a grassroots effort to try to protect and preserve it. So we went out on Monday night to go remove invasive water chestnuts, and we had a huge crew working with 7th graders upwards. And we feel like this is a nature resource where people can really become watershed stewards. And I feel like it would be a missed opportunity if we move too quickly on removing the dam. The dam is new as of 2008. It's in perfect condition, and the pond's been there historically for hundreds, maybe 175 years. And I think so many in Concord would benefit from access to this. And just like the Bruce Freeman, which is a balance between nature and people, it's a former trail that's been turned with asphalt into all accessible trail. I think the same thing can happen with Warner's Pond. We have Thoreau Park, we have all these other amazing connections to it, and I think more people should become connected to our pond. It's amazing.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And thank you. We hope to work with you.
I'm sure we will. Thank you. Any other general public comments this evening?
Yeah, I'm gonna echo.
If I could have your name.
Sure.
And address for the
Should I
record.
sit up here? I mean, you can-
Sure, help yourself. Yeah.
So my name is Greg Terrio. So I would like to echo
And your address?
Priscilla. So I'm at Wright Road as well, 118 Wright Road. So thank you, Chairman Ed and team. So nice to meet you. I've been in Concord for about 7 years, and so I echo a lot of her concerns. I was walking the pond with my son, and I read a sign that would say Warner's Pond. Now, the time I wrote a blog because my son and I watched the Beaver Dam. We're on the pond all the time, and it was through my son's eyes. So he only looks at what the pond is. He's 7 years old. Yeah, I've only been here 7 years. Came in from Concord. But there's been a lot of changes. And when I read into this, I was concerned. And I have a background from Boston College in environmental geoscience. And so it's almost 30 years ago. I took it seriously. And I just would ask, and I did write a blog, and then West Concord Bridge put a piece out on biodiversity, recreational value, historical significance. I'd like more people to be aware of Warner's Pond, because when you walk around town, people aren't that aware of why we're deciding to break the dam. And there's a lot of opinions. And I think that my ask would be that the NRC potentially slows this down if we could, and look at different angles. And there's a lot of folks that are weighing in, like the Army Corps of Engineers, that have asked for more data and science, and I'd happy to help. But I also think we need to get more people around town to weigh in. I think there's a new Facebook site that's up to about 300 people that are weighing in with concerns about why, like why so fast? You know, is it funding? You know, what can we do to look at a different bid? You know, how can we potentially dredge and fix the dam? But those things I'd like to just put on the table and ask for maybe a vote over time. That's why I'm here. So thank you.
No, thank you for your comment. We appreciate
Welcome.
that. I don't see any other hands on the screen.
Sorry, I wasn't aware of how to ask to speak. This is Jill O'Sullivan, 42 Lawsbrook Road. If there's no one else, can I take a moment?
Sure, you can have up to 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
So I live on the pond, and I find it alarming that neither myself or my neighbor had any idea about the pond removal plan until pretty recently. And I think that actually speaks volumes to how quickly this has been moving, and with how small a section of the town having any knowledge of what's going on. And I would like to ask very vehemently that there be some slowdown. I don't understand what the rush is. And, you know, once the dam is removed, once it's done, it's done. There's no going back. So I think this is an extremely important issue that with a lot of unanswered questions, and it deserves much more focus and time than it's been given, because again, once the dam is removed, we cannot go back. And this is a massive change to make to the identity of West Concord, to on so many levels, the recreational possibilities, the economic possibilities, environmental. You know, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the data supports removal. It concerns me that the data we have is largely based on models, not on actual samples taken from the pond. And I don't understand why we wouldn't ask the Army Corps of Engineers to do a free evaluation. From what I understand, they are ready and willing. They only need the town to request it. And it's very concerning to me that the town has not. It is a free cost evaluation. So again, sorry, I don't mean to sound strident, but I'm honestly very concerned that living on the pond, I knew nothing about this. And apparently there was a poll that was taken. I didn't even know anything about the poll, nor did my neighbor. So that's all.
Thank you for your comment.
Sure.
Can you speak?
One comment.
Yeah.
There's someone who's has been waiting to get in to make a comment onto Zoom. Being
Okay,
muted.
so
So I'm just, everybody who is in the waiting room has been admitted to the waiting room. There's nobody in the waiting room.
we're going to take two more comments, and that's all for this evening. Why, please introduce yourself, and then Michelle, did you have your hand up?
I had my hand up for my friend Vicky, who is trying to get in. She says that I'm waiting to be let in. And that was just, about 30 seconds ago on.
Okay, I think,
There's nobody in the waiting room.
okay,
Okay,
please.
Mike McDonald, 208 Wright Road. So these are my neighbors here. It's a big showing from Wright Road. And you're probably starting to pick up on some of the energy and fervor around Warner's Pond. There was a meeting a couple of weeks ago. We have 30 people there or so. The general theme of the meeting was, why is this happening so quickly? It just seems like I was talking with my neighbor a month and a half ago about a survey that had gone out, which I didn't know about. And here we are, sourcing out for an RFP for actual dam removal. So I would echo that the process just seems like it's gone from beginning to end in a millisecond, and there really has not been much input. So yeah, that's my first point. Second point is, I'll keep it under 2 minutes. I'm neither red nor blue on this. I mean, if a good analysis indicates that the best thing to do is remove the dam, then I'm on board with it. I just don't see the quote, the good analysis. I see a pretty high level study, and I see a Giroux Park that really hasn't been completed yet, which is not necessarily the best precedent for taking on another large public civil works project like this. So if we use Giroux Park as an example and precedents, something must have been missed in the planning process because it's not finished yet. So are we going to be here 5 years from now looking back at the dam removal and say, oh, darn, we missed that one too. So I'm just urging the committee to look closely at this process and take everything into account before moving forward with a large civil works project like this.
Thank you.
I am sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand on the computer here. Is it possible to say
Just a
something?
minute, Christine, just a minute. Michelle, did you want, I saw your hand up, but you were just trying to get your friend into the meeting, correct?
She just got in. Her name is
Okay.
Vicky and she wants to speak.
Could I just speak after that?
No, we're just gonna take one more. So, what's that?
Christine
Yeah.
has been on the call.
Yeah, go ahead, Christine. You'll be the final, unfortunately, we're beyond 10 minutes at this point, so we'll take, this will be the final comment for the evening.
Okay, this is real quick. My
Sure.
name is Christine Denaro from 189 Commonwealth Avenue, and also this is in reference to the Warner's Pond Dam project. And I'm also asking the NRC to slow down this process of their intent to take down Warner's Pond Dam. I also believe that other avenues need to be further investigated before any decision is made, because as the other person said, there's no going back once it's gone. From my house, on almost a daily basis, I can see kids fishing from above and below the dam, and I see people out canoeing and kayaking on the pond. And if the dam should come down, I mean, we will no longer have these recreational activities available to us on Warner's Pond in West Concord here. And I think that would be a great loss for us. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Christine. Okay, I guess that was a quick comment. Well, anybody have one final comment that we can accommodate?
Vicky?
Yeah, so thank you. Vicky Alani from 257 Commonwealth Avenue. And I just wanted to add another consideration for the discussion on the dam. This is our only resource, water resource in Concord that is actually free to all. The other water resources are all paid or membership. And it feels like in the name of equity that we're all now more focused on, and in the name of providing equal access to all residents, and anyone actually, it doesn't even have to be a resident, imagine anyone who needs access to water, fishing, boating, or just a time to contemplate has this resource. And once it's gone, it's gone. And I think in this time of more floods and need for outdoor space, it just seems like a little too quick to take away our one resource, one in West Concord, and two, that's the only free access that most of our residents have to this type of activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. All right.
Can I make a few clarifications?
Yes, please. Go ahead, Delia.
So, I just want to, point out that a few of you mentioned that there was a survey that you had not been aware of, in the process that people had not been aware of, and we did send out a survey. The Natural Resources Division sent out a survey over a year ago, and it was sent to every resident in the town of Concord. So, I mean, it was also posted on social media, it was at the libraries, it was very broadly distributed. And the second point that I wanted to make was that there's been some discussion about an Army Corps of Engineer availability of funding, and this is through the CAP program. And I understand that there was a neighborhood group that met a few nights ago, and a member of the Corps attended that, or an employee of the Corps who's also a Concord resident attended that. And I don't know who that person was, but I've had conversations with two regulatory members of the Army Corps of Engineers, and the CAP program is that funding is available to projects that receive federal congressional approval, and it is for projects that are for interstate commerce. It is for projects that are for commercial or federally, recognized navigation, or for projects that have federally designated rare species. So the conversations that I've had with the Army Corps regulators do not suggest at all that Warner's Pond is a project that is it doesn't qualify
Right.
for that program.
Or
So we'll
Yeah.
continue to have those conversations with the Army Corps and continue to, look through these things, but that is not something that's, what our research has shown is going to be, at all feasible from Army Corps funding.
And just ask you, those are recent conversations?
2 or 3 months ago.
Okay, so they're relatively
Yes,
fresh.
they are fresh conversations.
All right, and I'm sure we'll learn more as we go, right? We're really at the
Exactly.
tip of the iceberg at this point in
Right.
terms of the process.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you for those clarifications. All right, I think next up is the approval of the meeting minutes of April 26, 2023. I had a minor comment that was just a clarification.
No comments from me.
Okay.
I had no comment.
And Nick did too, and I.
Yeah, I think Nick and I had the same comment, so that's great. All right, so if I could have a motion, Sarah, perhaps, or approval. So-
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 26, 2023.
Second.
Thank you, Gary. And the vote, Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Any general commissioner comments this evening?
I do, but it's related to our other business, so maybe I'll just bring it up when we get to
Sure.
the other business.
Okay, fair enough. Director's update.
So we did receive, so the Warner's Pond Dam removal preliminary design, as you know, that was issued on July 17th. Bids were due today. 16 requests for a proposal were requested, and 1 response was received. So we'll be reviewing that proposal and meeting next week with 5-person evaluation committee. That's including Ed from NRC, Bert and I, and then representatives from engineering and recreation will sit on that evaluation committee. And then we hope to have a neighborhood discussion early in September. We've been hearing from a lot in the community. We'd like to have a sort of a coalesced discussion that is focused with, everybody, all the stakeholders that we've been hearing from, just to have, everybody at the table.
Yeah,
So
that's
we'll
great.
be looking to schedule that.
Yeah, given the comments tonight and that we keep hearing, I'm glad we're having another neighborhood discussion, because I really think we should outline for everybody everything that has been done in order to involve the public up to date. I mean, clearly some people have only just heard, but there's been articles in the Bridge. As you said, the survey went out a while ago. We've had 2 public forums. This is not something we've just quickly, rushed along without input. So, and also, I mean, maybe we need an article in the Bridge just to point people to the website with the details of the survey and the fact that this isn't a quick decision, all this work's gone on in the background.
And that a decision hasn't been made
It hasn't
yet, that
been
we're
made.
doing further analytical.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because I think it's kind of word of mouth. People are clearly, upset but I don't believe that everybody has all the facts that we've shared. So I don't know if the bridge, I mean, clearly people don't always read the bridge because people are saying they haven't heard, and yet there's been plenty in the bridge about it. So I'm not sure what else we can do, frankly. But clearly we need to do something.
Well, maybe we can ask that question at the community meeting, like what else can we do to
Right,
convey
yeah.
the information, because we'll have it on the website, we'll.
It's on our front page.
It's all there, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to add to the website,
Yeah, timeline or
the
something.
timeline of what's happened to date, so that it's clear that we haven't been doing this behind closed doors.
No, that's a great suggestion. I
Yeah.
think that's good.
Yeah.
The more information we can provide, the better.
Thank you.
I can't remember, does it actually say on the website the process as far as the fact that town meeting will have to vote and things like that?
So I put it up several months ago. I don't remember what I wrote exactly, but it
Might be good to
does.
clarify that as well.
Yes,
This is not gonna happen without the town voting,
right.
right?
Oh, yeah. That's
So
right.
none of the people who commented today, I mean, my sense
Right.
was that they thought we'd made a decision and it was moving forward as quickly as possible, which is not true.
Right. Okay, I'll make sure that that information. is on the
Yeah,
website.
I mean, we've made a recommendation that will go to town meeting as it stands now, but we're continuing to evaluate new information if it's
That's right.
available, right?
Right,
Yeah, and again, listen to what people have to say
Exactly.
about perhaps other potential options.
Right.
Okay. Great comment.
So let's see, so Punkatasset Trailheads, Will had our land manager. Got a group of people, volunteers together, and they did a really nice improvement to the trailhead. Entrance into Punkatasset, which is full of invasives, and so they've been working on that. Warner's Ponds, there was a group that was mentioned this evening that has worked on doing some invasive species removal. That follows on, the annual efforts that the crew does.
Yeah.
That's Warner's as well as the other town-owned ponds, Macomb, Fairyland, and Hutchins.
Mhm.
And so the community group did a great effort there. And that leads me to the last thing, which one of the person who spearheaded that effort sent a letter in to have read into the public record. I probably should have read this as part of the public comment. She said, so this is Karen Hodges, who also wrote an article in the Bridge last week, and she says, I am unable to attend the NRC meeting, either by Zoom or in person. I will be at my lake cabin in Canada, so please forward this message to the commission. Dear NRC, I ask that you consider slowing down the decision to remove the dam at Warner's Pond for the reasons that I outlined in the column I wrote for the Concord Bridge. She includes a link. It's in last week's Bridge. Removing the dam and draining the pond erases a critical opportunity for youth recreation in Concord. Kids in Concord and surrounding towns need more, not less, opportunities for exercising in nature. The quality of life and wellness of our young residents matter. For this reason, the decisions made by the NRC should be made slowly and carefully. Please weigh all issues more fully before rushing a decision to drain this beautiful pond. And as you are methodically making your decisions, please remember that there are plenty of rivers to kayak in, more river spaces redundant, but there are fewer open spaces for both swimming and paddling. Bottom line, Warner's Pond is being a hidden gem, which the community now wants to take care of and enjoy. Please give the community and especially our youth an opportunity to show their interest in this spectacular pond.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you. All right, so we have a couple of continuances this evening. One to, I think, 2 to August 30th and 1 to October 11th. Gary, you want to take that on?
Can I do the two?
Yeah.
At the same time?
Yeah.
So I move that we continue without discussion, DEP file 137-1634 and 24 Main Street. And DEP file 137-1643, 166 Commonwealth Avenue. To the August 30, 2023 meeting.
All right, and the vote, Gary,
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well.
And I move that we continue without discussion. DEP file 1371641, 154 Southfield Road to our October 11, 2020.
Second.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. All right, so we'll have our first continuance to be heard this evening at 88 Hugh Cargill Road, DEP file 137-1645.
Hi, I'm Alan Coach from 88 Cargill Road.
Alan, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. And on the line, I've got Mark Warfel from Crowley Cottrell, who are the landscape architects who've been helping with the plan. So I'll actually just turn it over to Mark.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mark.
Let me share the plans here. So as we declared in our memo that we submitted with these plans, these are kind of just updates to bring these plans in conformance with what we discussed last time, as well as some few simple modifications. One being that we included a tree protection detail that satisfies the NRC's requirement, noting which trees are to be protected on the demolition plan. We've clarified the invasive species areas, so identifying that these are the areas that contain the invasive species, not that it's a wholesale removal of everything within that zone. And then I think the larger changes occur on the next plan, which is our proposed restoration, showing that the fence indeed will stop at the 50-foot buffer line, and that along the 50-foot buffer, we will be locating pheno markers saying that there is to be no mowing beyond that point. We also updated the wood fence detail to show that the height of the fence was going to be 6 feet max. And then we remedied our calculations, which I think show in the written narrative, of how many plants we're proposing, shrubs and trees we're proposing within the 50-foot buffer and the 20-foot buffer, to meet the coverage that was discussed at the last hearing. So I think it's a pretty straightforward update. And do you all have any questions after reviewing these?
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, no, I think from our review, I think you checked all the boxes that we had presented at last meeting. So thank you for that. I don't have any questions in particular. Sarah, Gary?
Yep.
Nick, you good?
I'm good, no questions.
Okay. Are there any public comment regarding this application and these plans? What's the public? Any?
I'm sorry.
Just ask the public comment on this. Yeah.
Yep. Do not see any.
Okay. So seeing none, I do think we have a board of conditions prepared.
Yeah, so I move that we close and issue an order of conditions under DEP file number 137-1645 at 88 Hugh Cargill Road, with findings A and B, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 59.
Second.
All right, and the vote, Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Great,
Thank you, Al.
Well, I appreciate the commissioner's approval and also the assistance from the directors and of course the public comments from my neighbors and other residents. And
Well-
of course, Mark Warfel from Crowley Cottrell for helping marshal all this and put it together.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we look at the project.
We appreciate the flexibility, the changes that you're willing to make.
Of course,
Yeah, yeah.
of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
So we have, we'll commence our new applications this evening. Notice of intent for 311 Garfield Road, DEP file 137-1647. And who do we have this evening to discuss this with us?
Hi, good evening, commission members. Rich Kirby, the Environmental, and with me tonight is also Nicole Ferrara from LEC and Tim Lee, landscape architect from Tim Lee Landscape Design.
Okay.
So if it pleases the commission, I can share my screen showing the plan. This is a notice of intent. If the commission recalls, we had filed an RDA earlier this spring for some partial demolition of this structure, this old pump house, to investigate what it would take to convert it to a studio. We had a proposed temporary construction path with bark mulch to gain access from the street. There's already sort of an open area there now that's used by the Concord Light and Power and Light to access these electrical lines. I don't know if hopefully all this is ringing a bell. But so we did our investigation. We discovered that we can indeed convert it to a studio, and that's what this notice of intent is before you tonight, along with a few other things. So this structure would be converted to a studio. We have some lawn areas that will be sort of reinstated as lawn, if you will. These are maintained turf areas, but we're trying to keep those maintained more often as turf. We're proposing some turf up here, and the idea being that the parents will spend some time in the studio. The kids can play in the turf area adjacent, and they'll be able to keep an eye on the kids as they're playing. This is an existing septic system up in here. The turf area is going to be restored over that under existing conditions. There's a fair amount of overgrowth and brush that has gone in there. And of course, you're really not supposed to have that growing over a septic system anyway. For context, this is the wetland boundary over here. And then we have the 25 and 50 and then 100-foot buffer zones over here. We have a couple of existing, well, there's an existing stone wall here separating the elevated grade between the septic system and the low-lying area adjacent to the pump house. We have another wall over here that will be built up slightly. That's basically a boulder wall and a natural rock wall, retaining wall. It will be less than 4 feet, so we don't need a structural engineer to design it, but it's basically just building on top of what's there already. Above that wall, we'll have a little bit of a grade change, no steeper than 3 to 1. Really just to make the grades work and flatten this area out to make it a little bit more usable. We're also proposing to put these electrical lines, these overhead wires underground. Now that's going to require...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you
Sure.
enlarge that plan, please?
Say it again.
Can you enlarge the plan?
Sure.
Thank you. Or go to the next sheet. Maybe that's already blown up.
The other thing that we're proposing is to put some of these overhead wires that you see extending from utility pole to utility pole, put those underground. And we're going to have to work with Concord Power and Light to accomplish that. The E line represents a buried electrical line that we would connect to this utility pole here, which would eventually connect to utility poles along the street or the shared Garfield Road driveway. What we're trying to do is get this utility pole outside of the 25-foot buffer along with any trenching that's required. We have yet to get a commitment from Concord Power and Light on that. We'd like to, but if we can't, what we'll end up doing is probably just showing the existing utility poles and wires to remain. Those would be untouched. And if at some point we get Concord Light and Power and Light, excuse me, to agree to the the trenching of the electrical line will come back to the commission. Or the alternative is we'll simply show the utility pole outside the 25-foot, show all trenching outside the 25-foot, and cross our fingers that we get in touch with Concord Light and Power and they agree with the trenching, and then we'll have our approval. In worst case, we don't get the approval from Power and Light, then we'll just that portion of the project would not be completed. We did receive a number of comments from Delia and Bert with regard to the plans, specifically having to do with removing Norway maples, sapling Norway maples as part of the invasive species management. Getting more clarity on the electrical line, getting the utility pole down here outside of the 25-foot line, providing a little bit more clarity on the hatched areas, what's being proposed in this 25-foot no disturbance zone, which is really just invasive species management and a couple different seed mixes that we have. We're also proposing some invasive species management within the wetland. There's a fair amount of porcelain berry growing in this, what's in large part of meadow. So we received those comments earlier today. We're going to be working on revised plans and to address those comments. But before we finalize those plans, we wanted to at least open the hearing with the commission and see if you had any further comments that we should incorporate into revised plans. So I think that covers it. Happy to turn it back to the commission and see if there's any further questions.
Thank you, Rich. So I had a couple of questions, I guess, regarding around the pump house. I see the pheno markers, how they're placed around the pump house.
Yep.
And I certainly understand that the pump house, a small portion of the lower left corner is in the wetlands or the 25-foot no disturb zone.
Yeah, it's in the 25-foot.
Yeah.
The wetland boundary's down here.
And
Yeah.
we understand it's in, whether it's a replacement in kind or you're renovating, that's perfectly fine. But I guess I'm wondering why the pheno markers are, placed around and in the no disturb zone. I understand the building's in it, but I'm not sure what's going around the building, what's happening around the proposed.
So sure, we are proposing, you could see here, let me zoom in a little bit more for you. There is a conservation seed mix being proposed around the perimeter of the building. But that would be mowed once annually, along with some of the other land meadow areas on the other side of the pheno markers. And really that we're separating the structure from the pheno markers in order to have some maintenance space. If a window needs to be replaced, if the structure needs to be painted, if at some point roofers need to get up there to replace the roof, there's an adequate amount of maintenance space around the structure. That doesn't mean it's going to be lawn and mowed and maintained as a manicured area. But the pheno markers, if they intercept the building, then that really doesn't communicate well to the future property owners or to contractors as to what's allowed or what isn't allowed, right? The pheno markers just outside of the building, providing an adequate maintenance area, I think effectively or better communicate, okay, you can, change the window, paint the structure, whatever, but you're not allowed to get beyond, these points. So that's what I'm thinking.
How far are those pheno markers off the building? I didn't have a sense of that.
It's about 5 feet or so. I mean, this distance here is 25 feet, right? So this distance here is about 1/5 of that. It's about 5 or 6 feet, Tim, is that right?
Yes, it actually says right there, the note, it's 6 feet around the perimeter.
There it is. Thank you.
Okay.
I
I would-
would 6 feet
Yeah.
versus,
Well, I guess the other issue is it's a small structure. If they ever had to do some work, you could
Just go in and.
just go in and do the
mow.
work and
Right.
do it, but I'm not sure, again, my real concern is in the future, you sell it and somebody says, oh, I see some pheno markers around,
Yeah.
maybe you change it or they mow it down.
Right.
I just think it's odd to put feeder markers in the
Yeah.
no disturb zone.
Right.
I just think it's
I
very.
agree. Mm.
I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
so
it's
where would
right.
the committee? We're more than happy to put the pheno markers wherever the commission feels they should be. What would your preference be? So 8 would intercept, maybe we just have 8 and then 8 ends, or we have 9 right at the corner of the building
Right there.
there.
Yeah, I think it's practical.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll do 8 here, and sorry, 9 is over here, so it would be 7 right
Sure.
here.
Mhm.
And then I don't know, 6 would be right here where the 6 feet
So
on.
we, Rich, happy to
5,
talk
4,
offline
3.
about what makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's not design it during the
Yeah,
meeting.
I think we're just
but
bringing
yeah.
it to your attention as a
Okay,
concern. Yep.
fair
and,
enough.
Yep, thank you for that.
All right.
Um, and then I guess the other question I had was, I think, for lack of the, compass here, but, plan north or plan up on the upper side where you're gonna, where the septic system is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to understand about the walls that, the stone walls, as you move into the 25 and 50, are those existing walls?
Yes, this entire wall is existing. And the
It's really, it's really just a line of like one layer of rock.
okay. Well, I think that was one of the comments that Bert had, or Delia and Bert had.
Yeah.
So our thought was, well, what we're gonna do is to the point where we're gonna raise the existing wall to a max height of 4 feet to retain the grade. We're gonna stop that effort right at the 50.
Okay, great.
So we'll stop that
That'll
there.
work.
So I think that just needs to be clearer on the plan, Rich. It's not clear that effort is stopping at the 50.
Oh, yeah, it's not on this plan. It will on the revised
Okay.
plan.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, so if you can make that clear and, the other side is existing conditions to stay or whatever you want to term it, and then the new work beyond the 50 to 100, that'll be great.
Okay,
And Delia, I think there was a question about the annual mow, I think in the 25, and I think it'd be fine if it was always done or something in terms of grandfathered or not. I just
Right,
don't
so,
know.
and then the wetlands, so I think
Yeah.
we just need to get some understanding, Rich, on what the prior maintenance of that BVW in 25 has been.
yes.
Don't even have a note on the plan, or the landscape architect doesn't have a note on the plan noting that there will be an annual mow, and we just need to, is that a current condition?
Yes, the wetland is basically dominated by sensitive fern and porcelain berry. So the idea was, let's go in there and that's to a certain extent, right? Once you get, the closer you get along to the side property boundary over here, it becomes more wooded again.
Mhm.
But for the open area appears to have been maintained pretty regularly, perhaps until a couple years ago. And now the porcelain berry is really taken over. So the idea was maybe to get in there with a.
So it would be helpful to have on the plan, the existing tree line. And I think we already made the comments about, Bert gave you the comments about having the extent, clouding or somehow making clear the extent of what areas are going to be managed for invasives removal.
Right.
But also to have, we just need to have some documentation of what the prior management has been. And we recognize it's a herbaceous dominated meadow for the most part, but what's been going on there? Because there are certain conditions under which it will be grandfathered and others that it would be a different story. So just.
Okay, we'll find that out and regroup with you to figure out what would be allowed.
Perfect. And then you made a comment about having a conversation with the Concord Municipal Light, and they are very accommodating. So it's not really a conversation of, it's you saying to them, we cannot be in the 25-foot no disturb zone. So where else can we go?
Right.
And they will work with you to make that happen.
Okay. Yeah, I think there is some discussion with them already about needing to have vehicular access to the infrastructure, which is something that we're trying to work on because we have the septic system here. So we will continue our communication with them and update the plan and you.
Great.
Ed? Ed? Ed?
Oh, Nick, please.
Yeah, a couple of things. Could you show the pump house again? Just move the plan.
Yeah.
So the area with the rectangle with the cross hatching, that's the pump house, and that's going to be basically the footprint of the replacement building.
Yeah, that's right. They're basically rebuilding on the same foundation.
Okay, and that would, the new building, the eaves and everything would fit within that. So there's no additional space being taken. No.
Yeah, I don't know if this line represents the foundation or perhaps a roof eave, probably just the foundation. But if the commission wants to include a special condition indicating that any roof eaves proposed shall not be larger than existing roof eaves, I think we'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I think it has to be with whatever the footprint is today, whether there are eaves or not. The eaves, any eaves in the new building would have to be within that, I believe.
Right.
The other question is about these existing walls that appear to be outside the rectangle. Are those going to be removed? Are those going to remain?
So this is sort of a very short wall. We suspect this might have been an old foundation that was part of the structure. This is all overgrown with vegetation. So the idea was we would just leave that in place and focus on
concrete or stone, or what is it?
I don't recall offhand. Tim, do you remember if these walls are concrete or stone?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's a combination. I think the smaller one inside the rectangle is stone, and then the outer one is a mix, I think. And it may be that there was
Might be stone and mortar.
Yeah.
I was just curious. So that's just, it's not going to be used. It's not going to be removed.
No, the idea was just to leave that in place and minimize the disruption.
Okay.
Okay. Nick, you good?
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah, I have a question about access to the pump house. What is the proposed access? And is the proposed access basically from the 50 to step down, or you're really saying we are going to have a long turf path all along between the 25 and 50?
So all of this land here is already turf. All throughout here and has been. And we have some photographs to demonstrate that if you're interested. This is where they propose some matting to mitigate for the slope over the bark mulch. The bark mulch is really just to get access to do all of this work. The long-term maintenance
access. My question is about, so once this is done, you've replaced the pump house, how are the parents and kids going to get down to the studio? Is there a
Oh, yeah, sure. There's existing, landscaping, stairs, walking path, etc., to provide access.
And is that a grade between the 50 and the 20, crossing that 50 line? They're walking downhill?
Yes, they are. This is elevation 170, and then the next elevation is 169.
So a little bit of grade.
Yeah, okay. Just trying to understand whether, trying to keep as much out of the 50 as possible. But I mean, if there's turf there now, then yeah, that is still going to be the access.
Other than the proposed turf area in front.
Yeah, this is all proposed turf in this zone here. But again, this is very much overgrown under the existing condition.
Yep. Okay. That was a good question.
All right, is there any public comment? Oh, excuse me, for public.
It has been maintained as turf, and it's so close to the wetlands. I'm just wondering about chemical treatment and such like, and whether we need any conditions around that.
Fertilizer.
I think if you're planning or the homeowner is planning to do anything, because we always have that as a special condition, a standard condition, but I think they need to think about that now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if something is being
Because if you want perfect turf grass, it's going to need treatment that we might
Right,
What do you
it's
think?
non-existent turf grass now, right?
Yeah.
So they're proposing something. And I'm open to, allowing for kids to be visible to
Yeah.
parents in the
Yeah.
studio. I think that's great, but yeah, it's all within the 50, which
Right.
normally we would not
Right.
allow.
So I think that, just figure out what that looks like, Rich.
Yeah, I will. We can take a look at the soils in that area because part of the reason that fertilizers and pesticides and whatnot are required, especially on newer construction, is because the contractors strip all of the native topsoil, sell it, and then put back a few inches of what they call loam. I'm not sure what that is yet, but if you maintain, however, the natural topsoil profile, there's plenty of organics and plenty of moisture carrying capacity to carry a lawn area through a summer, in my opinion, through a growing season.
But when you contract a lawn company, they may have a different view.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you wouldn't want to just strip the topsoil and store it though. I mean, just reuse it after,
Right.
It's-
But which they won't even need to do here.
That's my.
Could I?
We will, well, go ahead, Tim. I
I just wanted to add a comment that the plan is not for this to be, a green, bluegrass, perfect turf lawn. It's really going to be a mix of fescues and drought tolerant seed mix that is just easier to mow and manage.
So that's great. So just
Yeah.
put the spec on the plan
Yeah.
because proposed
Oh,
turf can mean anything from Kentucky bluegrass to fescue. So
Yeah,
if
Right.
you just can clarify that I think will give a little more
Sure.
Thank you, Tim.
clarity.
Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
okay with those
Thank you.
clarifications.
Thank you for those. Any public comment regarding this application this evening? All right. So, Rich, you good for continuing out to the 30th of August?
Yeah, I think we can do that. And would the submittal deadline for new materials be the 23rd?
Or no, it would be
It's next
a
Friday.
week from, a week from Friday.
Friday, the 18th. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Tim, you agree with that? We can continue to the 30th and get everything in by next Friday?
Yes, we can do that. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
very good. Well, we will plan on seeing you back on the 30th.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
You too.
All right, the final new application this evening is a notice of intent for 1266 Monument Street, DEP file 137-1649.
Hi,
Good evening.
hello. All right, I'll be talking about that.
Name?
Yep, I was going to, sorry, I'm just, don't worry. I know the drill. Hi, my name is Nathaniel. I'm with Stansky McNary, and I'm here speaking on the project at 1266 Monument Street. So, this property, obviously will be familiar. We filed an ANRAD for the wetlands that are located to the north, locking in that last wetland line and the only wetland line that projects onto what used to be the front lot where the house is situated on this property off Monument Street. So the work is basically to do renovations to the pool area and to build a pool house and patio and fence, and a bulk of the work is landscaping and tree removal. So on the plan now, following the cursor is the 100-foot buffer zone, which is projected from the wetlands, which are, like I said, to the north of the pool house offsite. So there is a pool there now. There was one, and the new one's being constructed now. It is outside the 100-foot, which, like I said, is locked in with the ANRAD that was filed. So there is some work happening with the pool, but it's outside of the 100-foot. So the work that's actually within the 100-foot boundary is pretty minimal. So I'll zoom in even further. So it's for construction of a small portion of the pool house and a small bit of patio. The rest of the fenced-in area is going to be seeded as lawn. And the pool fence, of course, is required to surround the pool to keep people out. And all the work is within the 50 to 100-foot The rest of the work other than that is removal of 4 jurisdictional trees, as in 6-inch diameter or greater. Most of them being in the row right here, the rest of them, or in 2 right here, sorry. The rest of them will have tree protection, and then the rest of the work in this area is planting of native species, and there's a separate planting plan, which if needed, I can bring up. And I had neglected to mention at the beginning, but Tim Lee is also here and he provided the plan for that. It's a total of 94 square feet of impervious area in the buffer zone that's being added, and the replanting area is over 3,000 square feet. So of course, meeting the 1-to-1. Other than that, like I said, the proposed elements in the buffer zone are pretty minimal. A bulk of the work is landscaping. If you want more details on that, Tim Lee is here and can speak on it. But other than that, I don't really have anything else to add, and I will take any questions.
Thank you, Nathaniel. So I'm glad you touched on the landscaping, because it appears that some of the plantings proposed are non-native. Right. So again, if Tim wants to weigh in on this a little bit, but I think I think we would be highly encouraging you to move towards all native plantings versus non-native plantings.
Nathaniel, could you pull up that plan for us, please?
Yep. You want me to go to the schedule? You want me to zoom in on it?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak specifically to the non-natives. I think the non-natives are actually all outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
They are, so that's why it's encouraged and
That's
not
right.
being required.
Yeah.
I understand. I can, the reason for some of those being non-native is because there are existing plant material that we're trying to work with. So for example, the Coosa dogwood, there's already one existing, and the homeowner would like to add 2 more. So we're obviously wanting to have the same type of tree in that location. If you scroll down a little bit, Nathaniel, I can point out that it's keep going, scroll down a little further. So the area to the left of the pool, there you can see 3 trees there. One of them is existing, that's a Coosa. And so we're adding 2 more Coosas to match that tree.
Could you do a flowering? The Cornus Florida, which is native. I know it's not exactly the same as a Coosa, but they're very close.
Well, we certainly could consider that. I mean,
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah,
that's all. It's a consideration. It's
The
not a
second
buffer
law.
zone, so
Yeah.
there's no jurisdiction.
Sure,
Just asking you to sort of just rethink that a little bit.
sure, okay.
I think Delia asked for a full-size stamp landscape plan.
Yeah.
On the final submission as well.
Oh, sure.
Also I'm sorry, we didn't mention that on the.
Yeah, I'll do that for that one as well, too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Was there any other, I mean, I think that was that the only non-native that,
I don't remember. You have to go to the schedule.
I'm not seeing anything else, so.
Let's see that.
Well,
Is it
we had the white fir, that's native as well, so, I mean,
White fir is not native.
so that's
Daniel, could you go up the plant list a little bit, please?
the location of the white fir is also just right there to the left at the 100-foot buffer zone as well.
Right, so that's a western species.
Mhm.
Right, so not native. When we talk native, we're talking like New England native.
Yeah, sure, of course. Mhm. Yeah, no problem. That was there because we were trying to provide contrast. We wanted to have 3 different types of evergreens in that grouping. So we wanted to have 3 different colors. That's part of the reason why that was selected. And it's also one of the homeowners' favorites. So that was one of the reasons why that was on.
That's not going away, but the Norway spruce, which is really I mean, that's I mean, that there's a lot of good alternatives to that particular evergreen.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Mhm. We have Norway on the list already.
So I'm saying there are better alternatives to Norway spruce.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, okay, good.
Well, thank you, Tim.
Just to think about that.
Appreciate you and the board taking a second look at that. regarding the native species, if you will.
Sure.
Also, do you have any plans on invasive removal out here?
Yes, so the area where we're doing the majority of the planting north of the pool area, we were planning on removing, most of the material that's in there in order, obviously, to add the new plant material. The area that where I think was identified as having some invasive is actually an area that's going to be completely removed and completely redone. I think it's just outside the existing fence line. And so that whole area is going to be completely regraded and removed. So all that whole invasive section will completely disappear. If there are other invasives, we certainly can follow the plan or suggestion that was given to us in the comment for other areas in that particular zone that we're planting.
And Tim, do you provide just a kind of a narrative or protocol on the invasives removal, on how you're going to tackle that?
Well, I think the recommendation would be to remove anything by hand, but again, because we're disturbing a lot of that area in order to get the planting in and having to do the regrading, a lot of it will be done, with a machine in terms of being able to get in there and regrade that area and resculpt the landscape.
So, and I'm sure that, so we're becoming a lot more, we're trying to figure out a way to make this less of a problem. I'm sure you've seen it on projects where you go in with a piece of equipment and there are invasives and there's some regrading and the invasives get broken up and they get moved across the site, and then the equipment goes to another site and it brings those remnants and, then those are introduced somewhere. Right. So we are getting the conditions that the commission is imposing on projects regarding invasives management are getting more stringent in order to try to address these construction related invasives problems. So, I think that if you can, that you have invasives in that area along the wall that you're going to be managing. And so if there's some thought that you can put into just submitting some information on how you plan to instruct the contractor to avoid that, and we can reinforce that with a condition, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, we can certainly put together some language and some directives in there that can be added to notation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Sure.
Let's see. And the tree protection detail. I believe it says I'm not sure that's the standard detail that we are working with.
Right, so we can send you, I don't think that.
I got it, actually.
Okay, you do.
Sorry to interrupt. I got it from Bert, earlier today.
Okay, good. All right, great. So obviously some considerations and some thought. Gary, Sarah, Nick, any other commentary? You good? Okay. Any public comment regarding this application?
Yeah,
Yes.
Renata Componi from Mass Audubon, 221 Balls Hill. I just had a couple of questions. First of all, thank you to the commission for mentioning the invasive plant focus. That's really important. I wanted to ask, I couldn't tell from my plan the species of the trees that were being removed. It was kind of overwritten by the notes.
The 6-inch and the 7-inch that are removed in that corner, I believe one is a sassafras, and I think the other one is I think it's a nut tree. Is that right, Nathaniel? I think that is it. And the other.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, unfortunately. Sorry.
The TBR ones there that are in the area, those are all Quans and cherries.
And then my other question is, I noticed there's some large pile of soil or gravel or some kind of material that's on the site now. And I know it's outside the 100-foot line, but I'm wondering if you put in any of that siltation fencing in already, given the big rains that we're having this summer.
Not sure where it's located. Is that down? It might be down below.
Not sure where it is, but it's probably around here.
Yeah, there's this, that indicates here, is that approximately?
Well, this is more indicating a proposed stockpile. I mean, if there are stockpiles, they're all outside the 100. I know they're around where the access path is.
But if you want us, if you want us to add some silt socks or something around the base of those, we can do that. There is obviously a vegetated cover in those locations already, but we can certainly help help mitigate any kind of runoff if that would be beneficial.
Yeah, that would be appreciated. Thank you. Any other comments?
No, that's it.
Thank you for those. Nothing.
One more comment. This is Shauna Terrio,
Yes.
1266 Monument Street. Just to clarify, there are silt fences behind any of those piles of soil there now, and it's all being controlled even through the rains yesterday. Nothing moved. And the silt fence is already there. Marzili's been very forward thinking about everything.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Yes. And then our plan for, continuing to keep an eye on all those invasives. We do have goats on premises that are doing a great job with the multi-floor roses and everything else. And we're very aware and, hand pulling a number of invasive weeds that the goats don't take care of. We contract with Botanica Fine Gardens that works through Marzili, and they are doing an excellent job making an eco-friendly landscape for us, including a nice nice meadow plantings of wildflowers.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
All right, so with that, we talked about a few things this evening. Tim, would you be good to continue to August 30th meeting?
Let's go with this, yeah.
Okay, and so materials will have to be in a week from Friday.
Yep.
All right, very good. Look forward to seeing you back on the 30th.
Yep, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we're moving to other business. Gary, you had a good evening.
Yeah, well, it's, related to the letter that I guess we're being asked to support. I think it's great that we do these vulnerability assessments. I did send around just the article. I know that MIT, the Joint Program for Science and Policy on Global Climate Change, has done detailed downscaling for all of New England. I know the Climate Impact Collaborative, Science Impact Collaborative at MIT works with stakeholders. So I just hope that, whatever the town of Concord does towards this, and I am fully supportive of it, we don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And we have these groups that are willing to that are actually doing free
share
downscaling, modeling, vulnerability assessments with stakeholders already, and they're available to do it for free. So
Have you relayed that to the Climate Action
I
Committee?
just noticed it. And
No, that'd be great.
So
But they do note that, right? Wherever they can get that
Yes.
information.
Yeah.
To your very point, not to reinvent the wheel, but
Right.
I guess the more.
yet they did in the plan, they talk about, the next step would probably be to do these downscale modeling. And so I just want to make sure that they understand their resource available. And
Right.
I don't know how I would commit it, who's. the
Eric
chair.
Sims is
Eric.
the sustainability director, and you can get that information to them. I think that would be, really helpful.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm supportive of the concept, and the letter was fine.
Yeah. I thought.
I don't know, whether it's.
I don't think it's got it.
I just have one thought on it, which is that all of these initiatives wind up eventually with big budget proposals that are needed for whatever the good is that we're trying to do. And it's unfortunate the town does not have a great process for doing this kind of long-range financial planning, as far as I can tell. I don't know, it's not our jurisdiction, I guess, but it's just something to keep in mind. It will wind up competing with other needs in the town.
Right. So, and I did have a conversation with Eric Sims, the sustainability director, about the funding for this. And, the idea is that it would go into the FY 25 funding cycle for a match, and that the remainder would be, sought from MVP grants or other, municipal vulnerability preparedness, opportunities. So it wouldn't be 100%, the granting is really key. And there's, as I understand it, there's substantial money that's available for these sorts of initiatives, but they're generally looking for a match.
Is that state?
That's good. That's good to hear. That's good.
It is state and federal.
Okay.
And I think the state is more sustained
Mm-hmm.
and federal is just
Episodic.
right now, right, episodic, right. Right now, it's good.
Yeah, yeah.
I noted in passing that yesterday we had 5.5 inches of rain at my house.
Wow.
5.5 inches.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know if I have a photo of the back of Deborah's Natural Gourmet. The
Oh,
whole parking
really?
lot was up to the wheel hubs.
It was insane. It was insane.
Yeah. First time I've gotten water in the basement.
It's, you measured 5.5, because that's the
Yeah.
highest that I've heard.
Yeah, I've got a physical gauge out there, like.
That's
and,
insane.
there was
In how
some-
many hours?
Pardon?
In how many hours?
Uh,
Like 4?
I'm not certain the last time I emptied it, but let's say 24.
So, okay, so 24.
So that was basically that
storm
storm.
is 8 inches in 24 hours.
Mm,
That's a 100-year storm.
just about.
8 inches in 24 hours.
Yeah.
I think it's 8.
I've been in Hilo, which is Hilo, Hawaii, which is basically a temperate rainforest area, and it was that kind of rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been
It was.
on the trail, north within that, not Kapali, no. Anyway, I can't think of it. It's on Kauai, Nepali coast.
Yeah.
You don't want to be there in a rainstorm like that.
All right, so we're good with the letter? Everybody's good with
Yes.
that? Okay. So I think with that, we are adjourned.
Very good.
Thank you, Nick. Good seeing you. I like your background.
I know. That's beautiful.